साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः कृतस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः कृतस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् तो प्रभुजा प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् संसारधामार्णललितलोक प्राणायकारिण घनाघनत्यम् सकलन गुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And welcome everyone to the Thursday night. We're going to change the slide when we get a chance to do that from Wednesday to Thursday. We've had a change in the scheduling in order to facilitate the change in personnel. People come and go in life and the ship keeps sailing. And that ship is the transcendental ship of truthfulness based on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada in his unadulterated, unedited, unchanged books. Now, there are also other books that have been compiled which are very informative about the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, especially his lecture books. I think there's 6 volumes of that, very beautifully bound up, and were sold in a small quantity to people that were fortunate enough to get them. And in those lectures, there's so much insight as well on truth and how to protect the truth by Srila Prabhupada to his disciples. And I wanted to mention this week, there's been quite a bit of excitement in the ISKCON world. Oh yes, with this revelation from one of Giriraj's disciples, a lady, quite a nice person, it appears, very sincere. And she was disclosing about a illicit relationship she's having with the sannyasi, this sannyasi, who in the past had done some service. Yes, that's a good thing. But somehow or other, either due to whatever reasons for him, he's given up the order of sannyas, yet still portraying himself as a renunciant. And that's very serious. As we all know, we've all studied the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how strict he was as a sannyasi, not only for himself. You know, he wouldn't even approach any ladies or women to show good example. But when he saw people like Chota Haridas, who were looking even at a form of the lady, of a woman, he chastised them severely, and this person went and committed suicide because he felt so bad about deviation. So this is the unfortunate situation in the ISKCON movement. People are sending me and to all of us, all kinds of questions about this. And I wanted to say that the real issue is that this is proof, everyone, of how the ISKCON GBC has been exposed again by their deviant rules regarding the elected guru system. One, how the people in this system, so many of them have fallen down, unfortunately. And not only that, that the order of sannyas, Prabhupada was so disappointed that back, and Yaśodā may speak up to it later, had forbidden sannyas back in 1977, I believe. He decided that this wasn't necessary for spiritual advancement, but rather it's more important to people just to follow the rules and regulations. That's more important. And we'll read about that tonight from the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna Consciousness is a process of self-realization, and then once a person achieves self-realization, they can take up the service of becoming situated on the platform of Bhakti Yoga, which is an eternal platform of service to the spiritual master. I was mentioning the other day this lecture in Australia where Prabhupada was being asked questions. Oh, Prabhupada, if we're your disciple, and you're the eternal spiritual master, are you eternally with me throughout my life? And Prabhupada said, no. Only if you follow the rules on the eternal platform of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, are we connected. So there is a responsibility. And this person who has fallen down, not only has it come to light with this one lady, unfortunate lady, but also with his secretary, who he's had for many years. He's a sannyasi using a woman as a secretary. He's also had an illicit relationship with this, but at the same time, he is not confessing the truth to his disciples and the members of the organization, ISKCON, that he is representing as a bona fide spiritual master. What does that mean? That means when you connect the dots, the whole thing is sahajiya. It's not just him, it's all kinds of people like him. I think there's been over 50. I saw one of our friends, she posted some kind of, she's living in the Prabhupada village, she posted a list of all these situations that have come up, this lady with people that are claiming to be guru, but are pretending in the closet only. Out in front, they're pretending to be guru, and in the closet, they're sahajiya, sense gratifier. And there's a serious karma for that, very serious. And this should be understood. We put a posting up showing what happens when people like this go forward and pretend they're guru, pretend they're sannyasi, mislead their followers, and in this way, they, along with their followers who do not renounce them and become Prabhupada disciples, based on the teachings that Prabhupada has given us about disciplic succession and parampara, they are subject to very serious karmic reactions. Yes, every action carries a serious karmic reaction. An offense against the pure devotee, offense, those people that don't critically study it, by the way, the teachings, like we're doing in our classes, and Yaśodā-nandana so nicely is guiding us in critical study of the philosophy. And tonight we'll bring that out further in today's discussion. I have some interesting references to this process given by Srila Prabhupada from the Bhagavad Gita, and the variety of purports that where he expresses this specific order that the guru must be bona fide. That's the trick. That's the mystery. If the guru is bona fide, then there is a perfect relationship between disciple and guru. When the guru is not bona fide, is deviant, then this affects him, his karma, and it affects the people that are surrounding him and their karma. Very serious. And that's why we're emphatically working towards pleasing Srila Prabhupada by preserving his legacy in his unadulterated books. Very interesting, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I'm listening to the lecture again this morning. I have a tendency to listen to the same lectures over and over again. And Prabhupada said, if you can just understand one sentence of the scripture, just one sentence, Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. If you can just understand one sentence of this philosophy, you can become self-realized just with one sentence. Can you imagine? That's the potency. We can see that Prabhupada was saying many times, if people just hold the book, they'll get some benefit. Yes, in the scope of eternal time and the 8,400,000 different species of life that you can be transmigrating to or reincarnated into, if you by chance get the human form of life and you just hold the book of Srimad Bhagavatam, you get benefit. Yes, you do. What to speak if you can just understand one sentence, not changed, one sentence spoken by the spiritual master, spoken through oral reception from him to us, you can go back to Godhead just by simply accepting. That's it. Prabhupada said in the lecture in Australia, you don't read the Bhagavad Gita? Because the person asked him, how long does it take to become Krishna conscious? He goes, in a second. It's just a question of understanding and accepting the fact. One sentence. Can you imagine? But is it easy? Obviously it isn't. You can read 1,000 sentences and then pretend to be a guru and then fall down and you disregard the orders of the spiritual master due to false ego. Yes. False ego. The subtle covering that protects Krishna from the insincere person. And this is very serious. So there's so much information now online about this, and it's a tragic thing. We're not celebrating it. I feel sorry for this person. I really do. And but Krishna is dealing. Krishna is dealing with this, not us. If we talk about it, it's because everyone's talking about it. Anybody that's in that movement or outside that movement, look at what's going on. And this is something that we should be very conscious of. What is reality? What is truth? And that's what our business is, the truth, the absolute truth, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and working together with devotees who are following the pure devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, through his sound vibrations, not some concoctions. I'll finish up. I just saw one devotee in Atlanta sold some books to a famous musician, CeeLo. He's a very good singer, a modern day singer. But I saw in the stack, there's a yellow Gita. Like, What is the point? Why do you do this, Dharmatma? Put this up on the screen. Oh, we're celebrating. When the books have been changed, the philosophy has been changed, the movement has been divided by these people, and they're running their own specific cults and groups without any regard with working together with bona fide disciples, and no one's stepping up. None of them. I always put my number up. Call me up. Nobody will call. Why not? I'll tell you why not. They're afraid to call because they're living in this deluded state of self-aggrandizement, profit, adoration, distinction, private bank accounts, and the list goes on. And that's the reality of this, everyone. Hari Bol. So we're going to move forward here with our reading of the diaries. I have the written diaries. I understand there's another diary at prabhupadbooks.com, which is a little bit different. I'm interested to look at it, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. But for now, as we move forward, we're going to read these inserts from Prabhupada in this written diary I got from Gargamuni and Brahmananda when they came to visit my house in 93 or so, when they were on a tour. Very nice visit from both of them, especially Brahmananda. He was so sweet and gave such nice talks at the house and the programs we were running. And I still remember that finally we had a big kirtan. Oh yeah. And it was quite ecstatic. I think my godbrother Uttama Shlok was here, so we used the old expression, we cooked it up. I wanted to mention too that there were many great musicians there. In Montreal, there was Nandi Keshwar. And he was also a very fine musician and a great kirtan leader and a wonderful president for the movement. Too bad he got discouraged by Gopal Krishna so much that he just walked away. Like many of us, and then somehow or other Krishna's brought us back together. And in this Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society, and we are thankful. You have to count your blessings. And we are very thankful that everybody in our group is working together very cooperatively to protect Prabhupada's legacies in his philosophy and his printed books, which is our mandates. So on Tuesday, March 1st, 1966, saw the letter, the India Office for Extension of Passport, and saw Mr. L.L. Malhotra Shah, also Bogart, still hopeful, received letter from Secretary of Indian Prime Minister, disappointing, received letter from Universal Books, not encouraging, butter, and bus fare, etc., 50 cents and 15 cents. So Prabhupada, I believe he only took one passage with the bus, 15 cents. So very interesting, eh? And then we have a letter from Dharwakar, the Universal Book House, Sita Sadan, Tulasippi Road, Dadar, Bombay, India, and the 26th of February. Okay. So let's look here. Yeah, we're in March. Dear Swamiji, I was happy to receive your letter of 16/2/66, Prabhupada reaching out, trying to sell his books, get some support, especially to learn that you are endeavoring to establish, a temple of Sri Radha Krishna in New York. May God bless your efforts so that you may be instrumental to fulfill this unique project. I cannot give you very happy news of the progress of the sale of Srimad Bhagavatam. One thing, because the subject is religious, and a small sector of the society may personally be interested in the books. The question mainly is in the pocket. Besides, a line of business is such that we rarely come in contact with colleges and universities. This is very untrue what this man is saying. Just see how much the Christians sell their Bibles and run their groups globally. Huh? Just see. This is absolutely pathetic. We tried to push them through some booksellers to Nagpur, Ahmedabad, Pune, etc., but regret to inform you that after some time these booksellers returned the books for want of response. As such, we are not only unenthusiastic to agree to your proposal or of taking up sales for all India, but we're just thinking of requesting you to nominate some other people in our place to represent your sale program in Maharashtra. Okay. Once again, Yaśodā, a rejection. Prabhupada's there, and he's being rejected by his kinsmen in India. What else is new? That's why he left. That's why he left. We have so far sold off six sets of your books. The sale proceeds will be 172.80 rupees. We shall shortly deposit the amount in your savings bank account with the Bank of Baroda, etc. Wishing you all success in your enterprise. With love and respect, such and such, Mr. Nobody. So Prabhupada went through this. Here's the cover of the letter, how they sent it to him. See that? Love and respect. There's no love there. Okay, and here we're going to read another letter from... now, this is a very interesting letter because Prabhupada has sent a letter to the Prime Minister of India. So again, I want you to realize how dynamic his vision was to spread Krishna consciousness, approaching the most influential people in the world and in America. Secretary to the Prime Minister returns the letter by airmail, February 25th, 1966. At least they're prompt, eh? Yaśodā-nandana, very prompt in their correspondence, which is appreciated too. We don't like it when people don't respond to us on many projects. We want to keep in communication. We send out letters. People don't reply back. What are we supposed to do? Dear Swamiji, the Prime Minister has seen your letter of February 8th, 1966. She appreciates the spirit which has prompted you to carry the spiritual messages of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam to other countries. Owing to the critical foreign exchange situation which the country is facing, it is greatly regretted that it will not be possible to assist you from here in your plan to set up a Radha Krishna temple. Yours sincerely, L.K. Jha, and that's addressed to Prabhupada, at 100 West 72nd Street, New York City. So many disappointments, but did it deter Prabhupada's determination? Not in the least. He just kept going forward. And this story will unfold for us as we continue to read these passages in his diary on how he overcomes all difficulty and succeeds tremendously in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all throughout the world. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and we have a very interesting section of the Caitanya-caritāmṛta today. We're still reading the purport for the Brahma Samhita, and we're looking forward to hearing from His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu here on a Thursday night at the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society, regular readings and discussions. Hare Krishna.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Jayam Swatharam Shukridrajagacharya Siddhar Sadasyaman Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se Gaur Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Ganga Mai ki Jai. Jamuna Mai ki Jai. Tulasi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome, everyone, to this reading and discussion from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. As we do every week, we will be reading a few selected verses from the Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 18-22, which describes the meaning and the benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Etina Thakur Gaudiya ke Karya Chenayatma Sat, Etinera Charana Vandana Tire Morenat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Granteraram Bikari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Tinera Smaraneai Vigna Vinashana Anayaseai Nijavanchita Purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Se mangala charanoi trivida prakar, vastu nirdesha shiravada namaskara. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. We are reading from We are reading from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Adi Lila, chapter 5, text number 22, which is a very, very long purport describing the spiritual world. I don't know exactly where we left off last week, but I'm assuming it's close to page 388. Okay. We are reading from page 389, second paragraph. The bestial civilization of eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratifying has misled modern man into forgetting how powerful a soul he has. As we have already described, the soul is a spiritual spark, many, many times more illuminating, dazzling, and powerful than the sun, moon, or electricity. Human life is spoiled when a man does not realize his real identity with his soul. Lord Chaitanya appeared with Lord Nityananda to save man from this type of misleading civilization. Srimad Bhagavatam also describes how yogis can travel to all the planets in the universe. When the vital force is lifted to the cerebellum, there's every chance that this force will burst out from the eyes, nose, ears, etc., as these are places that are known as the seventh orbit of the vital force. But the yogis can block these holes by complete suspension of air. The yogi then concentrates the vital force in the middle position, that is between the eyebrows. At this position, the yogi can think of the planet into which he wants to enter after leaving the body. He can then decide whether he wants to go to the abode of Krishna in the Transcendental Vaikunthas, from which he will not be required to descend into the material world, or to travel to higher planets in the material universe. The perfect yogi is at liberty to do either. For the perfect yogi who has attained success in the matter of leaving his body in perfect consciousness, transferring from one planet to another is as easy as an ordinary man walking to the grocery store. As already discussed, the material body is just a covering of the spiritual soul. Mind and intelligence are the undercoverings, and the gross body of earth, water, air, and so on is the overcoating of the soul. As such, any advanced soul who has realized himself by the yogic process, who knows the relationship between matter and spirit, can leave the gross dress of the soul in perfect order and as he desires. By the grace of God, we have complete freedom because the Lord is kind to us. We can live anywhere, either in the spiritual sky or in the material sky, upon whichever planet we desire. However, misuse of this freedom causes one to fall down into the material world and suffer the threefold miseries of conditional life. The living of a miserable life in the material world by dint of the soul's choice is nicely illustrated by Milton in Paradise Lost. Similarly, by choice, the soul can regain paradise and return back to Godhead. At the critical time of death, one can place the vital force between the two eyebrows and decide where he wants to go. if he's reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, he can, in less than a second, reach the transcendental Vaikuntha and appear there completely in his spiritual body, which will be suitable for him in the spiritual atmosphere. He has simply to desire to leave the material world, both in finer and in grosser forms, and then move the vital force to the topmost part of the skull and leave the body from the hole in the skull called the Brahma Randra. This is easy for one perfect in the practice of yoga. Of course, man is endowed with free will, and as such, if he does not want to free himself of the material world, he may enjoy the life of Brahmapada, occupation of the post of Brahma, and visit Siddhaloka, the planets of materially perfect beings who have full capacities to control gravity, space, and time. To visit these higher planets in the material universe, one need not give up his mind and intelligence, finer matter, but need only give up grosser matter, the material body. Each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and if one wants to travel to any particular planet within the material universe, one is to adapt his material body to the climatic condition of that planet. For instance, if one wants to go from India to Europe, where the climatic condition is different, one is to change his dress accordingly. Similarly, a complete change of body is necessary if one wants to go to the transcendental planets of Vaikuntha. However, if one wants to go to the higher material planets, he can keep his finer dress of mind, intelligence, and ego, but he has to leave his gross dress, body made of earth, water, fire, etc. When one goes to a transcendental planet, it is necessary to change both the finer and gross bodies, for one is to reach the spiritual sky completely in the spiritual form. This change of dress will take place automatically at the time of death, if one so desires. Bhagavad confirms that one can attain his next material body according to his desires at the time he leaves his body. The desire of the mind carries the soul in a suitable atmosphere, as the wind carries aromas from one place to another. Unfortunately, those who are not yogis, but gross materialists, who throughout their lives indulge in sense gratification, are puzzled by the disarrangement of the bodily and mental condition at the time of death. Such gross sensualists, encumbered by the main ideas, desires, and associations of the lives they have led, desire something against their interest, and thus foolishly take on new bodies that perpetuate their material miseries. Systematic training of the mind and intelligence is therefore needed, so that at the time of death, one may consciously desire a suitable body, either on this planet or another material planet, or even a transcendental planet. A civilization that does not consider the progressive advancement of the immortal soul merely fosters a bestial life of ignorance. It is foolish to think that every soul that passes away goes to the same place. Either the soul goes to a place he desires at the time of death, or upon leaving his body, he is forced to accept a position according to his acts in his previous life. The difference between the materialist and the yogi is that a materialist cannot determine his next body, whereas a yogi can consciously attain a suitable body for enjoyment. Rupesh, next. In the higher planets. Throughout his life, the gross materialist who is constantly after sense gratification spends all day earning his livelihood to maintain his family. And at night, he wastes his energy in sex enjoyment or else goes to sleep thinking about all he has done in the daytime. That is the monotonous life of the materialist. Although differently graded as businessmen, lawyers, politicians, professors, judges, coolies, pickpockets, laborers, and so on, materialists all simply engage in eating, sleeping, fearing in sense gratification, and thus spoil their valuable lives, pursuing luxury and neglecting to perfect their lives through spiritual realization. Yogis, however, try to perfect their lives, and therefore Bhagavad Gita enjoins that everyone should become a yogi. Yoga is the system for linking the soul in the service of the Lord. Only under superior guidance can one practice such yoga in his life without changing his social position. As already described, a yogi can go anywhere he desires without mechanical help. For a yogi can place his mind and intelligence within the air circulating inside his body, and by practicing the art of breath control, he can mix that air with the air that blows all over the universe outside his body. With the help of this universal air, a yogi can travel to any planet and get a body suitable for its atmosphere. We can understand this process by comparing it to the electronic transmission of radio messages. With radio transmitters, sound waves produced at a certain station can travel all over the earth in seconds. But sound is produced from the ethereal sky. And as already explained, subtler than the ethereal sky is the mind, and finer than the mind is the intelligence. Spirit is still finer than the intelligence, and by nature, it is completely different from matter. Thus, we can just imagine how quickly the spirit soul can travel through the universal atmosphere. To come to the stage of manipulating finer elements like mind, intelligence, and spirit, one needs appropriate training, an appropriate mode of life, and appropriate association. Such training depends upon sincere prayers, devotional service, achievement of success in mystic perfection, and the successful merging of oneself in the activity of the soul and supersoul. A gross materialist, whether he be an empiric philosopher, a scientist, a psychologist, or whatever, cannot attain such success through blunt efforts and word jugglery. Materialists who perform yajnas or great sacrifices are comparatively better than grosser materialists who do not know anything beyond laboratories and test tubes. The advanced materialists who perform such sacrifices can reach the planet called Vaishvanara, a fiery planet similar to the sun. On this planet, which is situated on the way to Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe, such an advanced materialist can free himself from all traces of vice and its effects. When such a materialist is purified, he can rise to the orbit of the pole star, Dhruvaloka. Within this orbit, which is called the Shishumara Chakra, are situated the Aditya Lokas and the Vaikuntha planet within this universe. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadate Hi Visheshataha Adadhana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavato Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Shatakaromi Swam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. For those who are familiar with this purport, we can see that it is taken from the original. Many statements in this purport by Srila Prabhupada are taken from his original booklet published in 1959 called Easy Journey to Other Planets. What is significant, especially about this purport, is the very detailed description of how one can mold his life in such a way to go back to the spiritual world or to any planets within this material world. But those who are not trained up, who have not undergone the proper training, for them it is very difficult to get elevation to higher planets or to go to the spiritual world. And the reason why is that? Because one cannot force his way into higher planets or the spiritual world. We see from a historical perspective that Ravana tried to establish a stairway to the higher planets. It was unsuccessful. Even in the Christian Bible, there is such a reference of a king who tried to make a stairway to the higher planets. That is not how one gets promoted, either to the heavenly kingdom in this material world or to the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, the Vaikuntha planets. That is why it is so important for persons who have come in contact with this process of bhakti as given by Srila Prabhupada, as demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada, as explained systematically by Srila Prabhupada, should take this process very seriously. Because without practicing, usually it is not possible at the time of death to remember Krishna. Now, it is very important to note that even in India, Prabhupada made many statements. When we first went to India in 1970, Srila Prabhupada admonished the devotees when they went to the Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela is this big, massive fair that occurs every year in the middle of January. And every 12 years, there's called a Purna Kumbh Mela, where there's millions of people that come to take a bath at the confluence of the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the Triveni in Prayag. And this is considered most auspicious. It's said that if one takes birth there, takes a bath there, he will not take birth again in this material world. So when the devotees first went there, they noticed there's a lot of these babas. They're called Naga babas. They walk around practically naked, and in the middle of January in Prayag, it's a little cold. So they smear ashes on their bodies, and they look a little bit wild. And these Naga babas, sometimes devotees would laugh at them, that they look very strange, very peculiar. When Prabhupada heard about this, he said, no, do not laugh. He says, some of these yogis, by mystic power, they're able to take bath in 4 holy places at the same time. In Badrinath, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, and in South India, in Rameshwaram. Do not laugh at them. Prabhupada many times told the story of Trailinga Swami in Benares. He would go naked in the street, so the police would catch him, put him in jail. They would come back the next day or two. He was gone. He was back on the street. He had mystic power by which he can become very, very small. So India is a very special place where there are many such yogis and siddhas. Of course, Prabhupada has simplified the process. One does not have to go through all the austerities of the yoga process, but simply by chanting Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, one can achieve all perfection. And this is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When at the end of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 12th canto, Shukadev Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit, Kaler dosha nidhi rajan nastyeko mahan gunaha kirtanadiva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajed. That this age of Kali is a very disturbed age. It is an ocean of faults. Anybody who knows what's going on knows right now there are so many disturbances all over the world. There are wars, conflicts, countries attacking one another, terrorists, very, very graphic disturbances. But the Srimad Bhagavatam gives that if you remember simply the name of Krishna once, one can be freed from all these miseries in the material world. Because that is the promise of Lord Krishna. This is the promise of Lord Krishna. In the Padma Purana, there's a very interesting verse. Naham tishtami vaikunte. I do not reside, it Krishna is telling Narada. Naham tishtami vaikunte. I do not reside in Vaikunta. Yoginam hridayeshuva. I do not reside in the hearts of the yogis. So where does he live? Where does he stay? Tatratishtami Narada, my dear Narada, I stay. Yatra gayanti mad bhaktaha. Where my devotees are chanting my glories, this is where I stay. So this is the greatest gift of Srila Prabhupada. He has given these transcendental literatures and the process of bhakti by which one can associate with Krishna, associate with devotees, and in this way practice how to go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yes, a very comprehensive purport, Yaśodā-nandana, and a well-spoken explanation for us on so many disturbances that are taking place, Prabhu. You're right, with these wars and killings that are going on constantly. Actually, I'm noticing in Toronto, where I reside in near there, that every day there are people being stabbed or shot or brutalized for no reasons, good reasons at all, just anger and frustration by people that cannot find happiness. And this seems to be the pattern of the demoniac people. Everything they do is demoniac. And therefore they have no insight. It's not possible to have any insight into spiritual life. None. because they are acting as animals, not as human beings. Yes, this is the reality of the modern world, that it has become more and more difficult for a gentleman to live here. It's a very dangerous place. Just think about it too, Prabhu. In America, there is a coming election, as people here are very aware in Canada, in America, and probably throughout the world, there's a little bit of interest. Not much. I know when I used to go to India, I forgot that Canada existed. I'd be in India, there's 1 billion people there, I'd be looking around going, where's Canada? It's nowhere. There's only like 40 million people in Canada. When you're with 1.5 billion people, it doesn't mean much where there's 40 million. But nonetheless, in America, there is a huge election going on. And what are the two main issues? There are multiple issues, but there are two main issues that the Democrats are supporting in their campaign to win the election. Mother Rochisha, they are abortion, 1, and 2, woke philosophy. You can be a transgender, you can be a gay, 2LGBTQ, ST, whatever the heck it is. And if you do that, you're considered to be inclusive, that you're got an open mind. What, to let people be demoniac? I was looking at someone recently that was speaking about that. He said 10 years ago, if people started to project this idea of transgenderism, they could be beaten or assaulted in public. Nowadays, if you say one word, like our Prime Minister Trudeau, he made a comment because someone in Parliament made a comment. He goes, we cannot tolerate any homophobia. Why? Because he's a closet gay himself. But this kind of thing is going on. And because of that, there are so many disturbances. The laws of karma, Prabhupada gives a simple example of fire. He said, if the child puts his hand in fire, it'll be burnt. Now, someone could say, no, it won't. Oh, yes, it will. Put your hand in and you'll see. So when people break the laws of humanity, illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling, they will get reactions. And not only will they get reactions, Prabhus, there is collective karma. That is a serious matter. And collective karma means war. And these wars have a possibility of spilling over throughout the world. And we know, if you're studying a bit about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict right now, it's spreading throughout that Middle Eastern section of the world. And it could spread. We don't know. None of us know. And especially because countries outside of there are propagating misinformation to the people, and the media is completely fake. It's a fake media. There is no truth. This is the last pillar of religiosity, which is being destroyed, Prabhus. It's truthfulness. Everyone is lying as much as they can to perpetrate their own personal, whether it's in the society or even in the ISKCON group. They're lying to everyone. They're misrepresenting the philosophy, and it's coming out in these scandals that are carrying on, as we mentioned at the beginning of the program. I'm just finishing up the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and these purports, as I was mentioning at the opening of our program, Prabhupada said, if you can just accept one sentence, you can be liberated. You can be saved from Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada, as we're seeing here in these purports, is so transcendentally illuminating to hear him speak in these purports. Yasoda read them so beautifully, just kept reading it. we all kept enjoying it because it's so perfect. These are perfect explanations of the revelation of truth to the conditioned soul by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And we're going to go to, just to finish up here, we're going to go to Bhagavad Gita, text 24, 1624. And for brevity of time, we'll go strictly to the translation, just to move forward here. Translation. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that they may gradually be elevated, not degraded. So Prabhupada's here, Yaśodā did refer to this process. It's nicely summarized in this first part of the purport. As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, here, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Highest. Not Hatha Yoga, not any of the other yoga processes. Simply Bhakti Yoga. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, Bhakti Yoga, and eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, properly offered through the spiritual master, not the bogus food that's being offered now in the ISKCON temples. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all Vedic literature, Garuda. Think about it. He has come to the conclusion perfectly, of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness, which is 99.9% of the people, everyone, or who are not engaged in devotional service. What is to be done and what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or Scripture. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the conditioned soul. Imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainly of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra as being above these defects are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas, and great souls. In India, there are many parties of spiritual understanding generally classified as two. I thought it'd be important to read this, the impersonalist and the personalist. Both of them, however, lead their lives according to the principles of the Vedas. Without following the principles of the scriptures, one cannot elevate himself to the perfectional stage. You cannot do it. One who is actually therefore understands the purport of the Vedas is considered fortunate. And we know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and we're meant to serve him under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, not a bogus guru. In human society, aversion to the principles of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all fall downs. Aversion. That is the greatest offense of human life. Therefore, Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of the threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of material nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understand the Supreme Lord can be opened, not passion and ignorance. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. How clear is that, everyone? Those in the mode of passion and ignorance deride the scriptures, deride the holy man, deride the proper understanding of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, let's say it. And they do not care for the regulations of the scriptures, his teachings. In spite of hearing the glories of devotional service from Srila Prabhupada, they are not attracted. Thus they manufacture their own way of elevation to whom it may concern in the ISKCON group. There are some of the defects of human society which lead to the demoniac status of life. If, however, here's the critical statement here, Prabhus, if one is able to be guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation, to the highest stage of life, to the higher stage, then one's life can be successful. One purport, enough to all these purports, all this information, is enough to elevate us at this moment to take up the devotional service of Srila Prabhupada and protect his legacy without hesitation. And in this way, we can go back to Godhead together. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
Very important points that are being raised here. Prabhupada has given so many descriptions in his books and his writings of how one can go back to the spiritual world. But it's very difficult in this atmosphere in the material world where one is under the influence of false ego. It's called Maya. Maya means illusion. Ma means not. Ya means this. One identifies with the body or with the mind. He's thinking, I am this body, and everything that comes in contact belongs to me, my family, my country, my nation, my this, my that. This is called illusion. But one can only be saved or liberated from this illusion by hearing from a self-realized Acharya or guru, spiritual master, spiritual preceptor. Just like if one goes to university, one can read a book about engineering, law, medicine, accounting, but one cannot become an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor just by reading the book. He has to go and learn from established professors, follow the course, follow the traditional standard. Then one can become a lawyer or engineer or accountant or whatever. There's a process. Similarly, in spiritual life, one has to accept the teachings and the authority of a bona fide Acharya. Now, some people will say, well, you need to get a living, physically present person. But Prabhupada's teachings are beyond just this material living platform. They're transcendental. Prabhupada did not write his books and his teachings just so that after his departure, that these teachings would become obsolete or non-applicable. They're eternally applicable. And that is the difference between a liberated soul and a conditioned soul. Prabhupada, being a Nitya Siddha, an eternally liberated soul who came from the spiritual world to preach the message and mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can establish basically a system by which people can take up the process of bhakti, can take up the process of devotional service simply by hearing his transcendental teachings and applying and chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. And we're going to move to our panel of Prabhupada disciples on the program this evening. And we're going to ask Garuda Prabhu and Paranjana. We did discuss about Giriraj earlier, if you refer back to the beginning, but at the same time, I think it's a current topic. And Dharma Bhavana. We're going to ask these three to speak. I'd like to start with our professor from Harvard University, Garuda Prabhu, if he could make a comments on today's program.
Well, thank you so much again for another very insightful program and words from both you, Vishwakarmaji, and Yaśodā-nandana. Unfortunately, I had disruptions from doctoral students in California calling me up on and off during the session. But of course, what I heard, though, was wonderful. The purport that you read from the Gita, so incisive. Prabhupada is very, very clear about what is required. And Yaśodā-nandana bringing up the idea of ahankara. Ahankara being centered upon the self, being preoccupied with self. Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada teaches us, is that very process of transferring ourselves from an intrinsically selfish orientation to being centered on another, to be centered on another, to serve others, and to serve the supreme other, Krishna, Radha and Krishna, to serve their love. And by serving people's hearts in the mode of goodness, even transcendental goodness, and by delighting in Radha Krishna's love, our lives then get filled up with this love and pleasure and non-enviousness. There's no time to envy others. So, it's such a beautiful process that Prabhupada has given us. Just beautiful. And theologically, and I work with the theologies of world religions, and this is one desire Prabhupada had. He said, if you can compare, he said this to Giriraj in 1969 in a letter, when his parents had complained that he would be leaving Brandeis University. And so Prabhupada wrote to Giriraj, said, I understand you're a student of psychology and theology. And then Prabhupada went on and say, actually, we're in the school of theology. And if you can prove that Krishna consciousness has the highest theological, vision among all theological visions, then this will be a great accomplishment. So anyway, those are words that inspire me, aside from Prabhupada's direct blessings. But that statement he made to Giriraj back in 1969, way back, are very inspirational words. Anyway, but thank you for tonight, this wonderful Sangha here.
Yes, it is very interesting. And it's interesting that you read from a letter that Prabhupada sent to Giriraj, who recently has succumbed to, material desires. So it's unfortunate. It's not who starts the race, it's who ends it. And how you end it. That will determine what happens to you at the time of death. This is a serious matter. And we're going to go to Dharma Bhavana and then to Paranjana to make further comments. Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Are you there for us?
Okay.
Yes, there it is.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I wanted to hear from Paranjana first, but since you called on me, I'll just try to make it. I wanted to read from Madhya-lila, chapter 19, text 135. And it was just kind of
19, Madhya-lila, chapter 19, text 35. Rupesh, if you can
135.
135?
135. 135, yeah.
Okay.
And I was just thinking how you mentioned about the different disturbances going on, and so frequently they kind of start here in Texas. But I thought I'd read a scientific. I picked this out before class today. I had no idea it would be about the same subject matter as our class. Text 135. For 10 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Prayag and instructed Rupa Goswami, empowering him with the necessary potency. This is a confirmation of the statement, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartan. Unless one is specifically empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement. An empowered devotee sees and feels himself to be the lowest of men. For he knows that whatever he does is due to the inspiration given by the Lord in the heart. This also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham sarata yuktanam bhajatam pridipurvakam. The Dhammik Buddha Yogam Tame Yanamam Upayanti Te. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Actually, that's not the verse I wanted to read, but I'll just continue with it. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. To be empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to qualify himself. This means that one must engage 24 hours daily in the loving devotional service of the Lord. The material position of a devotee doesn't matter because devotional service is not dependent on material considerations. I just wanted to read that part of the purport, so thank you. Hari Bol.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move forward with Paranjana. He has some comments to make. Prabhu, somewhere in California.
Haribo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, Haribo. Some funny things have been happening, like some Gaudiya Math guy who's been arguing with me for like 2 weeks now. And every time he talks to me, he says, "That's it, I'm never going to talk to you again." Then he posts something else, and then I comment again. And then he says, "Okay, that's it, I'm done with you." He can't get away from it. I think he realizes he's kind of stuck with me, and they're going to be stuck with our arguments ongoing. They're going to have to deal with it at some point. So it's just kind of funny. But various people contacted me, not just one, but several.
Yeah.
And this Giriraj story has some very dark side to it, that I could not publish or discuss in my video. But just to give you an example, there was a guy living in Giriraj's house who tried to expose this stuff like 5 years ago. And they kicked him out, and they took all of his belongings and all of his money and confiscated his phone and basically kicked him out the door without a drop of anything. And so somehow or other he called his parents, and they got him a ticket, and he went back to his parents. But then he started getting death threats.
Ooh.
This guy who was formerly in the house, he was never supposed to contact anybody. And then evidently he had signed a non-disclosure agreement, whatever that is. Yeah, they make people sign a non-disclosure thing, when they become members of the group. Now, I just noticed the GBC did the same thing this year. If you're a GBC member, you have to sign an oath of non-disclosure to be a GBC member.
Oh.
You can't disclose what's going on in the meetings, what's being discussed within their circle. So I think they're really, like tightening up, control as much as they can, but it's definitely not working, So anyway, this girl who was with Giriraj, busted open the story, and then other people who had been involved contacted me and gave me additional information and some of the texts that had been exchanged and things like that. So I got a lot of inside information, but it's interesting that when people have something that they need to expose, they'll send it my way. You know what I mean? Now, meanwhile, the trailer has come out, which I posted for the movie Monkey on a Stick. And the last thing I heard is they are discussing not putting it into movie houses. That was the original plan. They want to put it online now and just
Okay.
have a pay-per-view movie. Anybody can just pay a certain amount and go view it. So we'll see. Anyway, Guruji, I take your point that I shouldn't be laughing at people who are struggling, but I hate to say it, but these people have all created their own struggles. Really. I mean, they were laughing at me when I was being chased with baseball bats. You know what I'm saying? So they have no qualms about laughing at the suffering of others and causing trouble to others. So, but I do get your point. We should, they are suffering. I mean, Giriraj is obviously suffering badly, and And the woman in her, the girlfriend of Giriraj did a number of times say that he looks very depressed and sad now because, well, yeah, because he doesn't have a phone and, they won't let him even go out for a walk. They don't want anybody to photograph him. If he goes out for a walk, he'll be photographed. So they're really putting the clampers down. Basically, his caretakers have taken over his life. They don't allow him to do anything he wants to do. And from the lady's point of view, she thinks there's nothing wrong with Giriraj. It's just he's in love. That's what's wrong with it. It's kind of I mean it's sad and comical to me, simultaneously. It's very sad because I know Giriraj. I was in India for a year with Giriraj, and we were very good friends, very close, and he was, very dear to Prabhupada, doing a lot of service and all that stuff. So I appreciate that side of him, but there's no guarantee that just because you previously did service, that, you can rely on that for the rest of your life and say, well, I did service, in at a certain period of time, that it doesn't count. You have to be, and it reminds me of the story that actually happened in India when I was there. There was this devotee who smuggled watches into India, and he got busted coming into the customs. He had like 100 watches on all of his arms, and so he got into trouble. And this was in the newspapers in India, and it created a big scandal. And so then he came to Prabhupada, and he was crying, and, oh my God, and Prabhupada says, okay, here's the situation. You have done service up till now, but you've done unservice now. So now you're at zero. You have no credit. You have lost all of your credit. Now you have to start all over again and make credit for yourself. So that's an interesting point. You may have done some service, but you can undo that service. And not only you start at zero, you could start at -0, big time. You can go backwards. But anyway, the stranger part of the story is that this devotee promised Prabhupada he would never do anything illegal again. And then he flies into England 2 weeks later, and he's busted smuggling drugs into England. And he goes to jail. I think he got like 3 years. And he was writing this, same thing, crying to Prabhupada, oh my God, And Prabhupada says, yes, I forgive you, but you didn't keep your promise. Now you really have, but that didn't happen either. He just, he was a criminal guy and like that. But anyway, so I like Giriraj. I wish the best for him and all the rest of it. But it is a fact that I also met him when I was in L.A. I was in L.A. suing the GBC $400 million. Needless to say, I was not a popular character. I was riding my bike all around in front of the temple, handing out papers to the Guru Coolies. Here you go, sign up for this case. And, the GBC guys were standing on the sidewalk watching me do this, and they were just like, smoke was just coming out of their ears. What is this guy doing? So. And unfortunately, Giriraj was in that crowd, and he, normally, he always says that cheesecake smile, that unmistakable Mr. Cheese guy, he's always happy. Well, whenever he would see me riding my bike, oh my God, it was like a big grimace, and you could tell he was like really, really, really unhappy with me, And now, I put up this video about the whole story, and I'm getting these comments, and it's all from Hindu ladies who have no idea what happened or anything else. And, one of them challenged me, well, why don't you show your face? Why don't you show us who you are? Well, she has no idea what's been going on with me, that I've been getting all these, problems and stuff like that. But I see now the only defenders he has are these very sentimental Hindu ladies who they don't know the history. They don't know anything. And they're saying, well, he's just sick and I should be forgiving, and, same kind of thing. So he doesn't, all of his people have no clue. That's really clear to me by the responses I'm getting. Anyway, those are the major updates that are
Okay.
going on.
Well, thank you. Garuda Prabhu, I did watch that video. I think it's 22 minutes long. I went through it. I listened to it. You know, this happens in the material world. People get trouble. They make mistakes. This is the defect. And it's interesting to note, the only reason we really want to bring it up is to show how this guru system is not bona fide because of the circumstances that have come up, not only with him, but with lots of people that we know. And it's very unfortunate. And, you know, we're not going to base our devotional service on the fact that we're exposing these people that are fallen down, because that goes on every day in every religious group, in every organization there is, whether it's government or religion. But the point is this, that there is a cover-up going on, and a very unfortunate cover-up by the group that is around him. And there's all kinds of mixed stories coming out. They're saying that he's got dementia. Front lobal. I was talking to Petita Pavana over in Europe, and he mentioned to that, oh, this Giriraj Prabhu has this dementia. And then she's in her interview, Garuda, and she's saying there's nothing wrong with him. They're only covering it up just to justify why he's not able to appear and explain these things to people, because he's so sick. And she's saying he's not sick. They're simply controlling him. And in the talk, Garuda Prabhu, she says, they should be charged with senior abuse. Think about it. Senior abuse. They're not giving him his phone. They're not letting him speak. They're not letting him do this or that. So it's an unfortunate situation, but it is a revelation for everybody. That's the point. I tell people, just try to connect the dots and then turn your direction towards Prabhupada, and all the philosophy that we've been reading, and enjoy this process and go back to Godhead. It's not about him, not at all. You know, we're kind of, you know, and Paranjana always has sort of a snicker in everything he says. And, you know, we understand that's the way he is. He's trying to keep calm because he's under threat, because he's so outspoken. So the world, as they say, as the world turns. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, maybe you can wind it up for us, this evening of discussion.
Well, all of us wish Giriraj Swami the best. No one here is wishing him any bad results. But unfortunately, as we know in the ISKCON organization, there are many people who have been victimized. I call it victimized by the propaganda of a few original misleaders. And this is very important, because right now, for those who are well connected to the internet on Facebook and emails and different blogs, you can find out the history of what happened, both before Prabhupada departed and after Prabhupada departed. And it's obvious there was a cabal of individuals that Prabhupada often referred to as a sinister movement that had infiltrated his society, that basically misled the devotee community and the entire society into a hoax, a nonsensical falsehood, false idea of so-called appointment, successor appointment. And on the basis of this falsehood, they victimized the entire society. It doesn't matter how intelligent one may be or how good of a devotee one may be or have been. The fact of the matter is the entire society was adversely affected by this false propaganda, this lie, this bold-faced lie, this hoax that Prabhupada allegedly appointed 11 successor or Diksha gurus. That is a complete nonsensical fabrication. Prabhupada did not appoint one successor or 11 successors or 1,100 successors. This was even admitted by the mastermind of that whole system when he was suspended, that this whole idea that Prabhupada appointed gurus was a myth in Topanga Canyon, California on December 3rd, 1980. But people are conditioned. They're conditioned by the association they have by the sources they hear from. Devotees have to get away from that cabal, from that clique of misleaders, and hear back from the Acharya. Surrender to the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, not from those who have changed his teaching, misrepresented teaching, changed his books. These people will not be able to help anybody. Now, people will say, who are you? You used to be a sannyasi and you're this and that. Well, I may be whatever I may be. For the record, I never stopped chanting my rounds, worshiping my Govardhan Shila that was directly given to me by Srila Prabhupada in 1976. I tried, Vishwakarma knows this story better than anybody else. In 1981, 82, I tried to go back to the Toronto temple. Oh no, all hell broke loose. The new Vrindavan Swami and the local Swami in Toronto, oh no, he's the most dangerous man in ISKCON. And when people brought it up to them, and wait a minute, we know this devotee, he was living in Buffalo with us. We know he chants his rounds. We know he followed the principles. He's preaching, distributing books. Oh, we know he's always done that. But we tried to defeat him in Vrindavan in February of 79, and he knows the whole history of this. So if you know the whole history of the takeover of the assets of ISKCON and how they perpetrate this hoax, you will be considered a very dangerous person like Puranjan, like Patit Pavana, like Vishwakarma, like so many people, because they don't want to hear the truth. It has become a business, a religious facade business. As far as why I changed ashrams, because I could not deal with the insanity and craziness of such people. I just could not. So I decided to go back to law school, get a paralegal degree, go to work, and eventually I changed ashrams. I did not stop chanting. I never stopped chanting my rounds. I never stopped following the principles. I changed ashram. Whatever may be the crime in that, I'll leave it up to Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada and Krishna to judge me for that. But I've never betrayed Prabhupada and never will. Those people that told us in public and put in a public records that Prabhupada was a worker for hire, be aware of how dangerous these people are. This is simply nonsense. This is simply a massive blasphemy and aparad. We'll leave it at that for now. I'm trying to clarify the record because I know there are some people that are very critical and have no knowledge of the facts of what Vishwakarma Prabhu and myself went through in the early 1980s. And many of us, especially Vishwakarma, tried to get these issues clarified, only to have the door shut down. Their attitude was, we've already discussed everything. There is nothing to discuss. We have already decided everything. That is the same attitude they told Vishwakarma. That is the same attitude they've told me. And that is the same thing they say now. There's nothing to discuss. We already solved everything. Well, thank you very much. We'll solve our questions with Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you very much for that explanation. We, of course, are celebrating the fact that we have senior devotees like yourself, Garuda Prabhu, and other God brothers that are coming to our group and speaking the truth and carrying on in a sincere fashion to protect Prabhupada's legacy into the future. And it's being documented, Garuda, in these classes which we're capturing online. And we're also planning to add a software package in with the help of Nilesh, where it'll be translated in 22 languages in real time. And in this way, we can continue to broadcast this information, which can be done globally through modern technology. It's a great time for us. There's this fellow, Joel Olstein, Garuda. He's in Texas. He uses this technology to propagate his untruths to the world and become very successful, because one of the most important things in human society is knowledge of the truth and Krishna and God, period. There's nothing bigger than spiritual life, nothing. But there's nothing bigger than confusion and chaos and misunderstanding now. And we're trying to clarify that, Prabhu, by our collective efforts in these classes and in these printing and publishing of Prabhupada's original books. We're stepping up, we're stepping forward, we're going to keep going. And thank you, Yaśodā, for your commitment that you'll never stop explaining Prabhupada's glories for the benefit of humanity. All glories to the Sankirtan movement and all glories to the Sankirtan. Yes, Bhakti Rupesh, your hand is up, please. Did you want to speak, brother? Maybe that was a mistake. Bhakti Rupesh, who's been hosting the program tonight. Okay, maybe his mic isn't working. We'll move forward, Bhakti Rupesh, with the conclusion of the show. Please play the kirtan for us, and we'll all chant along to Prabhupada, singing Hare Krishna mantra with the use of the bongo. Maybe his... There we go. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanshakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desired trees, and we're full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this program. Thanks Bhakti Rupesh Prabhu in Mumbai, India. Thanks Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Puranjan somewhere in California, and everybody who participated in this program. Thanks Garuda Prabhu from Washington, D.C., I'm assuming. and everybody else. We look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday morning for the Bhagavad Gita reading and discussion at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, corresponding to 10 a.m. East Coast Florida time and Edmonton, Ontario time. And again, we welcome everybody's participation, comments. You can feel free to communicate with us anytime. Everybody is welcome. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and his wonderful teachings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.